What's up, nerds? My name is Steve from Flipping the Nerd, and this is my top 10 video games I'd like to see adapted into movies. Video game movies have, quite frankly, not exactly been the best. Assassin's Creed, Halo, Need for Speed. There's a bunch of movies based off video games that just didn't quite hit the mark. And I will do a top 10 favorite video game movies. It's actually a hard list to make because a lot of them are crap. But this is not about that. This is more about the potential of video game movies. And I'm going to list 10 video games that I think would make amazing movies. So if a video game has had a movie in any form, like Assassin's Creed and Halo, I'm not going to mention it because they kind of had their shot, even though I think there's a huge potential for a very good film in there. I'm not going to mention those. So my honorable mentions are Firewatch. Firewatch is this really cool game about a park ranger who has to spend like a certain amount of time kind of protecting a park, and he falls in love with another park ranger from another tower, and the entire relationship is kind of built on a walkie-talkie. It's just a really cool story. I think it could make a really interesting romantic film. Now, I'm not a big fan of romantic films, but I think if any romantic film would be worth watching, and something unique because it isn't a kind of face-to-face interaction. It's all done over this radio. I think it could be really cool and very different, and that's why I want to mention it. Then we have Mega Man, one of my favorite franchises of all time. I don't see a lot of potential in stuff like the old Nintendo games, Mario, Legend of Zelda, to be honest. I don't know why, I just don't have the vision for it, but I think Mega Man would make a really cool movie. You know, it's got cool multiple robots, it has a great villain in Dr. Wily, a great character in Mega Man, and Dr. Light as his mentor and his builder, and it's just, I think it has potential, but not quite top 10 potential. And I hope to be proven wrong, to be honest. Then we have Mass Effect. Mass Effect is just a really cool sci-fi story. I would see it being kind of in the vein of The Fifth Element, just these kind of massive worlds and these interesting alien characters interacting with each other in a nice, cool space opera. Now, there are a lot of films that are similar to that right now, so there's not a huge need for this movie, but I did want to mention it because I do think there's a lot of potential in that franchise. Then we have Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is practically a movie already if you play the video game. There are cutscenes there. I mean, if you put the cutscenes together, it's like 4 or 5 hours. But I still have to mention it because it is a very cool story. It's got a great character in Solid Snake. The whole idea of this super machine called the Metal Gear and this guy trying to kind of stop it. I think it would make a potentially really cool movie. It delves into really like awesome tech and tactical moves and stuff like that. Some sneaking around. So definitely a huge potential for a movie. But because it's practically already a movie, I didn't put it on my top 10. And finally, and this one's totally out of left field, and that's why I didn't want to put it on the list, but I did want to give it an honorable mention. For the record, honorable mentions aren't necessarily my 11 to 15 tops. It's just things I want to talk about that are in the category. So it could be my 20th, but I want to mention it. And this is kind of in that film. So I said that I wouldn't say video games that were adapted into films. I'm not saying that it's a movie that had a video game that I think is better than the film. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. This should have been Indy 4. It's about Indiana Jones trying to find Atlantis. It's a very interesting story. It hits on some cool locations. It's got a really cool story where he goes, how he has to figure out where Atlantis is, and who he recruits to find Atlantis. This should have been Indy 4. Hopefully, Indy 5 is more along the veins of this game, and that's why I want to mention it. I really didn't like Crystal Skull. It's growing on me a little bit as I rewatch it, but still, I think Indy deserves better, and Fate of Atlantis is the adventure I wanted to see. So let's get into the top 10. Number 10. The Division. Tom Clancy's The Division, to be exact. this is maybe one of the kind of more grounded films that I have on my list. It's really just about a virus that takes over and this government agency, secret government agency that has to come in and save people. And I know that this movie is technically in development. I think it's in development hell, to be honest. But I really like what I like about this, and why I put it in my top 10 is that it's post-apocalyptic, but during Christmas. So there's a lot of kind of broken down Christmas ornaments, and it's just I just really think that that alone would make a potentially really cool setting for a movie. You have this government agency trying to take down these other people who have nefarious reason, and I think it would just make a cool movie based off that premise alone, and that's why I wanted to put it in my top 10. Number 9, God of War. The story of Kratos, the new God of War, would be so cool to see. Now, this would be a CGI fest. I mean, he fights gods. But if you've played the game, you know that there are a lot of really cool visuals and a lot of really cool moments. I mean, Kratos is a total badass. It would be a very violent film. I'd love to see it as rated R. And he cuts, demons' head off, and you have Medusas, and you have just these really cool set pieces. Like, there was a level where you're on a guy's back. It was just so awesome if done right. But this would need a huge budget to be pulled off successfully. And I don't know if they could. But if they could, and if they can extract the cool visuals from the video game into a movie, this would be an epic blockbuster, and definitely something I'd love to see. Number 8, The Last of Us. I'm wearing a Last of Us shirt right now. The Last of Us plays very cinematically already, but it's this great, fantastic story of a guy and a girl that go through this apocalypse and fight kind of, bad organizations as they try to figure out what's going on. And they've got these really creepy scenes with these tickers, and it's very atmospheric. I love post-apocalyptic movies, so that's probably, but it's not zombies, and that's what I kind of like about it. I did a top 10 zombie list, and I love zombies, and I'll see anything zombies, but tickers are very different than zombies. It's kind of like a mix of zombies and like the monsters from A Quiet Place, where it's sound orientated, and it's a great story, great atmosphere. I really like the relationship between Joel and Ellie, and I think it could make for a really cool film, and that's why I wanted to include it on the list. Number 7, Fallout. The Fallout series is another post-apocalyptic film. Like I said, I love post-apocalyptic stuff, but what makes this setting really cool in particular is that the apocalypse happened in the 50s, and then it happened, they go into these vaults, and 150 years later, the vaults open up again, and they go through the world and try to rebuild it. And it's all still in the 1950s, which gives it this really cool aesthetic and this really awesome kind of setting. I don't know what the story would be in particular, but it would be cool to see a vault dweller and their experiences going into this world, particularly if it's a vault that kind of was late coming out. So in the video games, Fallout 76, which is the most recent one, you're one of the new ones, so there's not a lot of stuff that's built out in the world. But in some of the older games like Fallout 3, Fallout 4, when you come out of the vault, there's already an established base of different pockets of people who live together. For example, in Fallout 4, they used the stadium in Boston to build a base, and it's just really cool. I think there's a lot of potential. The Fallout series, they explore different places in America, and you got that 50s aesthetic, so I think it would make for a fantastic film. Number 6, Portal. Portal is a really hilarious game. You have an amazing character in GLaDOS, which is the AI who controls this woman who goes through these different tests, and she doesn't know why she's being tested. She doesn't understand what the point of these tests are, and she has this really sarcastic robot that's leading her through it. I think it would make for a very cool adventure. It would be a very kind of small adventure because it really focuses on this one woman's going through these tests, trying to figure out what's going on, and then trying to escape from whatever her fate is in these tests. It would be a fun movie. It would need a very, very strong actress to go through it because it really is just that one person and this one voice. But if they can do Portal right, it would be amazing. If you played Portal, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go play Portal. It's such an amazing game. So definitely need it to be on my list. Number 5. The Darkness. The Darkness is this kind of the Crow-ish video game where you have this gothic dude that kind of looks like a heavy metal singer. You know, he's got long black hair and long trench coat, and he has these 4 demons that come out of him and eat people, and that's just such a cool horror film, I think. So it's this guy that's possessed by these 4 demons, and the 4 demons can be, I don't remember if they talk. I played the video game a long time ago, but it would be cool if the 4 demons kind of had personalities, and he's going through this adventure against these hellish creatures with these personalities. And I know in the game it's more towards like hitting criminal organizations, and that would be cool too, but I think it would be a nice mix of the criminal organizations and kind of demons, as these 4 different personality demons just have this whole relationship with him. It would be similar to those who've seen Venom, of Eddie Brock's relationship with Venom, but think of like Venom, but with 4 of them, with different personalities. I think it would make a fantastic film, a fantastic horror, and there's a lot of cool visuals that could be incorporated into this entire thing. So that's why I put it on my list. Number 4. Gears of War. Gears of War is one of my favorite games of all time. The story of Marcus Phoenix, who comes out of jail, who's broken out of jail after E-Day, which is Emergence Day, when these creatures invade the Earth, and you have this group of Gears, which are kind of the army, to fight off these creatures, and it's a really cool story. I really like the characters. You have Marcus, you have Dom, you have Coltrane, and Baird. I like their relationship as they grew through this whole story, and I think it would make for a really cool film. Now, I know they're trying to get this film made. I hear a lot of rumors that Dave Bautista is going to play Marcus Phoenix, which is like, he was born for that role. He's got the heft for it, and he's got the acting chops these days. He's really doing well. So they need to make a Gears of War movie. I'd love to see E-Day brought into film. I really love if they made General Rom the villain of the story. He's just a really cool ultra creature, and he's got these krill, which are like bats that surround him. It's a fantastic game. I think it would make for a great movie. If you want to know kind of what the movie I think would look like, just check out the original teaser trailer to the first game, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The one that's set to Mad World. I think that would be an amazing trailer for what would become the Gears of War movie. So definitely had to be on my list. Number 3. Dante's Inferno. I'm a big horror fan. I mean, I don't hide it. Dante's Inferno would make a fantastic fantasy horror film. So it's about this guy who goes through the 7 stages of hell, and they are super sick. I mean, when you're in gluttony, you're in all these like gross kind of, you have all these gross people and all this like disgusting stuff happening. When you're in lust, there's a lot of nudity. You have to play this game. First of all, it's an amazing, underrated game. And I think the visuals could be just really disgusting and cool. This would definitely have to be a rated R, though. It's violent. It's like it's just awesome. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of swearing. There's a lot of everything. This would be the ultimate fantasy horror rated R film, and I don't even know how to describe it without like getting some kind of strike. I try to not be vulgar on my show, but if there's ever going to be vulgarity in my life, it's watching Dante's Inferno, and that's why I put it on my list. Number 2, Monkey Island. Monkey Island is one of the games that I first got into when I got into gaming in the early 90s. It's a point-and-click adventure of this really frail guy who wants to become a pirate. His name's Guybrush Threepwood. And I think that Monkey Island is what Disney should have made instead of Pirates of the Caribbean. They have a lot of similarities. In Monkey Island, he's trying to become a pirate, which is similar to Orlando Bloom's character, who's, kind of in that vein. And then he has to fight a ghostly pirate named LeChuck, where in Pirates of the Caribbean, it's ghostly pirates, and they go on a ghostly pirate ship. Same thing as Monkey Island. The difference between Pirates of the Caribbean and Monkey Island is that I find Monkey Island funnier. It's got a big focus on comedy. The way that Guybrush wins battles is not only with the sword that he learns through the Swordmaster, but through like kind of a joke exchange, like who's the most clever out of the two. There's a lot to love about Monkey Island. Monkey Island itself is a great place I'd love to see explored. They got so many cool characters and really unique characters. You have Stan, the guy who sells you a ship, and you have Elaine, the girlfriend he's trying to get, and his crew is really funny with the Swordmaster and these other characters. There's just so much to love about Monkey Island, and now that I don't know where the rights are, it's kind of a complex situation there, but I really, really, really hope that they make a Monkey Island movie one day. Number 1, BioShock. BioShock is my second favorite game of all time, and it's because if anything needed to be made into a movie, it's this. And it came so close, like 7 years ago. Gore Verbinski, who made Pirates of the Caribbean, was tapped to make the BioShock movie, but it cost too much. And it has to. BioShock is about a guy who goes he like crashes an airplane, he finds a lighthouse, he goes into the lighthouse, and the lighthouse has like this kind of ship, kind of a submarine thing that shoots him off into an underwater city called Rapture. And it turns out that Rapture is this place that a guy named Andrew Ryan built so that there's no government, there's no rules, no science rules, no religious rules. You could do whatever you want. It's a place for scientists and artists to create what they want without any laws or rules. And of course, what happens is that they create these things called Adam and Eve, and it makes people absolutely crazy. It's got this nice, again, kind of 1930s aesthetic to it. It's in this amazing underwater city that you have to see to believe. Yeah, I'll show pictures of it. They got these things called Big Daddies, which are this giant kind of submarine creatures, and it's just, there's so much to love about this game. It has some kind of fantasy elements to it, where these things called plasmids, where you can shoot fire or ice or electricity, which is part of what it was built from, the scientists on Rapture. This is such an amazing game. It would make a fantastic movie, and I'm really sad that they didn't end up doing it, but I hope one day they can find the budget, or the technology gets advanced enough where you don't need as much budget to make this incredible story. So BioShock was easily my number 1. Next week, I'm going to do my top 10 favorite dogs in television and movies. I love dogs. Dogs are awesome. So let me know which ones I should put on the list, if I see it before next week. And I'd like to know, what video games do you think would make great movies? So just let me all that in the comments. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all on the flip side. Goodbye.